Listener discretion is advised.
You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah. And this time we remembered to do the intro.
Yeah. You know, some days are harder than other days, but all days are hard.
That's true. Not as hard as the nights, though.
Oh my God.
The nights get so lonely.
I'm totally kidding. The nights are easier.
Anyway, talk space.
Some nights are endless after daylight savings.
When will the dawn come?
There's no way to know.
Lucy,
my
I don't know if
God.
I sent it to you, but I saw a great TikTok the other day that was this woman who's like, if you're not buying a vintage, like Victorian floor length nightgown and just wandering around your house pretending that you're trying to survive the winter, like, what are you even doing?
Yeah, that's called being an adult.
Yeah.
Grow up.
Yeah.
Glow up.
I need a long nightgown.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
You do.
Anyway, who are we?
Oh, I'm Kenyon. I like matching pajamas.
Yes, you do. I'm Lucy. I just like to be warm.
I'm Amanda, and I don't have a bra on.
Good idea.
Take it
Yeah.
off, honey. I am wearing the Stanley Hotel
Yes,
sweatshirt you gave me.
are.
Cute.
I
So
just have long
cozy.
arms. It didn't fit me that well.
So cozy. I love.
I've got my back brace on,
Oh,
so
How
it's gonna
fun.
be a good day.
that's a fun one.
All right, let's
You're
get
like the one in Romeo and Michelle. They stick the
Yeah.
magnets on.
So good.
All right. Let's
Anyway.
get to the topic. This week we have a very special fan pick brought to you by Katie M. Although in the document, Lucy did write, check to make sure they are donating enough.
Which I assume they are. In
There
either
was a
way, you're getting an
miscommunication
episode.
several months ago. Katie M, you are donating enough, and we really appreciate your
Nice.
support.
All
Nailed it.
right. Good job,
Nailed it.
Katie M. And good job, Lucy. And Katie has selected the topic of forensic psychology.
Yeah,
blessed
this-
be.
This is a
Good and
big one.
Yeah,
There's
Yeah.
a lot to cover.
a whole
I
lot.
love it.
Yeah. And I feel like we've covered some of it in the profiling episode and in that interview that we did
Yeah.
with the FBI profiler.
We've definitely touched on a lot of aspects of
Right.
forensic psychology.
But it would be good to do a deep dive.
We could. And
So-
we're kind of doing it. So great.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, Amanda, what is our wine crime pairing for forensic psychology?
Well, our lovely fan picker requested the Witching Hour Red, which we have had before, and it's amazing. But I'm not even wearing a bra today, so I couldn't get my act together in time to go get it. So I'm sorry, and I hope you'll forgive me. And if you don't,
We have done it as a pairing before, though, I think.
I think we have, but like we've also done the one I paired as a pairing before.
All
So
right.
it is what it is. This is where I'm at. Everything is fine. But I am very excited about this pairing because this is a new iteration of this wine. It is a varietal that I actually am not. I've had it before, but we don't usually pair this red. And it's from our friends over at Winc Wine Club. So if you're new here, Winc Wine Club is the best invention of mankind. They literally deliver wine to your door, and you can like become a member to get special pricing, to get them to recognize what your tastes are and recommend wines for you. They like will ask you questions about your palate and make great recommendations. They change up their offerings frequently. I mean, you're not just getting stuck with the same stuff over and over again. They're amazing. And we are running a special offer just for you. So if you go to trywinc.com/wine and crime special, because you're special and it's special, you get 4 bottles for $29.95.
That's an incredible deal for these quality wines.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's also super awesome because as a member, you get like bonus credits. You can get like send a box to a friend or a loved one. Like it's just such an awesome program. We really love Winc. They've been with us since pretty much day one, and we can never break up with them, and they can never break up with us because we would be really sad.
I just got my new box of Winc wine today.
It's the best delivery. Right? That means mine's going to be coming soon. So excited.
FedEx guy knows my name.
Yep.
He knows I get a lot of wine in the mail.
So try winc.com/wine and crime special for $29.95 on the first 4 bottles that you order. So good. So I paired today's episode with their Far and Wide Frappato. And I chose this because as I was doing my case writing, I realized that investigators searched far and also wide for this perp.
Wow.
To no avail until a forensic psychologist was brought into the fold.
Oh, this unsub.
So, subcontracted unsub. So I'm very excited.
An unsub is an as yet unidentified suspect.
Oh, okay.
I learned that term this morning.
This is a phenomenal red. Frappatos are really fun because they're a little bit more fruit forward, but they're still like nice and medium bodied. So if you like a really fruity, but not sweet, just like a fruit forward, like red fruit Cabernet, you'll really, really, really like Frappato. This is going to have some hints of raspberry, a little bit of red cherry, a little bit of rhubarb, some of the like earthiness of like tomato.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, which kind of balances out, the fruit forward nature of it. It's also really nice and dry on the back end, so you're not going to have like syrup mouth from a fruity red. So good. It's indigenous to Sicily. And Frappato is a really cool wine. It's sort of like a cross between Pinot Noir and Cabernet. Like it's complex, but it's light and it has a lot of flavor. So it's really, really fun. And it's great in the winter when your wine storage is maybe a little bit cooler than it is supposed to be because it's gotten really cold outside, because you want to serve this at just like a slight chill.
Oh, I love a slightly chilled red.
Yeah,
makes
so it's
me
like
feel
perfect.
so fancy.
It's perfect at like cellar temperature, but minus even another like couple degrees. So around like between 50 and 52 degrees if you want to get real technical. This is 17.2% ABV. It's also vegan. And they use low sugar and organic winemaking. So diabetics, grab your wine keys.
Yeah.
And if you're like me, you're using for the first time your special edition XOXO, the Wine and Crime Gals. Very cute rainbow iridescent wine key. I'm obsessed with it.
She's
cute. So cute.
Those are limited edition.
They are.
So get them while you can.
My favorite thing about it is that the screw is also the rainbow metallic.
The worm.
Yeah.
We got an iridescent worm.
I'm so in love with it. So head to our online store at wineandcrimepodcast.bigcartel.com and get one. Okay, I'm going to pop it open. And it's a no bones day always, so I'm definitely not going to struggle with this. It's totally fine. Definitely not struggling just to screw it in.
That's another internet thing that I haven't fully understood. Is
It's
a
a
no
TikTok
bones day
thing.
good?
Neither bones nor bones are really good or bad. A no bones day means you basically just get to go back to bed. And a bones day indicates it's probably going to be a productive,
work day.
But they're both, neither option is bad.
Okay.
I live a no bones life, so.
I've had a rare bones day.
Not a bones day. We're working now.
We are. That doesn't mean we're being productive. Here we go. Let's get ready to rumble.
You almost hit yourself in the face.
I really almost did.
It looked like you were like fighting a sneeze.
It really, I'm really going for it. Ooh.
Well, nice pap.
I love this. She pours like a Pinot.
Oh yeah.
How cute is she?
Oh, yeah. I love that color.
Mwah.
Thank
I
you,
definitely have
Winky.
that in my pantry. I need to go.
Oh, yeah. I have 2 different varietals of the Far and Wide in my storage as well. So I grabbed the Frappato because I was real excited about it. I love
All
it.
right.
Cheers.
Well, cheers.
Cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
I'm drinking coffee out of this very sexy mug that I bought for my
Ooh.
husband in June.
That is not a mug. That is a thermos.
Thermos,
Mhm.
whatever. I bought it for him in June, and I thought he was going to be so excited and love it so much. And today, when I reached for it, I realized it had never, ever been used, and the paper was still inside it.
Oh, God.
So it's mine now because
Yours
I
now.
love it.
I love and hate that. I'm so sorry.
Whatever, I don't give a shit. Okay, Lucy, what is our background and hopefully psych heavy for forensic psychology?
Definitely got some psych in here. Okay, here's a quote from my lover. Forensic psychology is the application of psychology to legal issues, often for the purpose of offering expert testimony in a courtroom, including but not limited to. In civil and criminal cases, forensic psychologists may evaluate individuals to determine questions such as competency to stand trial, the relationship of a mental disorder to an accident or a crime, and potential for future dangerous behavior. In
Okay.
addition to conducting interviews and administering psychological tests, they usually gather a forensic history, which includes information such as hospital records, police reports, and statements of witnesses. They are also expected to have a grasp of relevant legal questions. In a child custody case, a forensic psychologist may be asked to evaluate home environments, parents, and the character of the child in order to recommend a custody decision in the child's best interests.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
They do a lot.
Yeah.
So, some other examples of tasks for forensic psychologists are threat assessments for schools, counseling services to victims of crime, death notification procedures. Ooh.
Like coming up with those protocols for law enforcement and stuff.
Yes. Yes. Screening and selection of law enforcement applicants. We'll circle back
Do
to
better.
that. Right. The
Screen more.
The assessment of post-traumatic stress disorder, sentencing recommendations, evaluation of the risk of reoffending, consultation of jury selection. So, like if lawyers have questions about or want to learn more about the strategies behind jury selection,
Yeah.
that would be where forensic psychology comes in.
Interesting.
Witness preparation, designing correctional programs, expert witness testimony, like we said, and the delivery and evaluation of intervention and treatment programs for juvenile and adult offenders.
Wow. So there can be a lot of different specialties within it, or I guess some people do it all, but that would be really tough.
Yeah, a lot of different specialties. Here's a fun fact for you that we've talked about forensics so much, but I never knew this. The word forensic comes from the Latin word forensis, meaning of the forum, and the forum was where the law courts of ancient Rome were held.
Okay. So always having to do with law
Yeah, forensic.
and not having to do with foreskins necessarily.
Well, we have a whole episode about that. Forensic psychology is often lumped together with legal psychology. They are two different things, but under the same umbrella.
Okay.
The main difference between the two is that legal psychology typically doesn't include clinical matters. That is to say, research involving clinical psychology, such as mental illness, competency, the insanity defense, which we'll get to also, offender profiling, etc., is typically categorized as forensic psychology and not legal psychology. So a legal psychologist might study things like eyewitness testimony or jury decision making.
Cool.
Okay.
So how the jury makes their decisions.
Right.
So when it comes to consultation, like I mentioned, as a forensic psychologist might do, a legal psychologist might do the same thing.
Okay.
So there
But
is
when
overlap.
it comes to like the offending side of things, it would be more forensic.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is from the APA. Arguably, one of the most interesting assessments for a forensic psychologist is assessment in mens rea cases, aka insanity cases.
AKA that part in Legally Blonde.
Yeah. Yeah. The only reason I know that word.
Yep.
Perm science. In the US, a person cannot be held responsible for a crime. Raymond. Cannot. Speaking of insanity, mens rea.
Ray.
Mens rea. Okay, a person cannot be held responsible for a crime if they did not possess a guilty mind, which is what mens rea means. Guilty mind.
Got it. Yep.
At the time the criminal act was committed. There are several conditions in which the law recognizes that a guilty mind is absent. So, like, for example, if it was in self-defense. Insanity is not a psychological term, but a legal one, because it is an insensitive term if we're using that in a medical sense.
Yeah.
The standard for insanity is determined by each state, and there is also a federal standard. A common standard is whether the person knew what they were doing is wrong. The forensic psychologist has to determine not how the person is functioning at that present moment, but their mental state at the time of the crime. Thus, much of the forensic psychologist's work is retrospective and must rely on third-party information, collateral contacts, and written communications, such as statements made at the time of the crime.
Okay.
But for the self-defense thing, you still have to prove that, like,
you were in danger.
like a reasonable person would consider themselves to be in danger in that moment.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Because
So-
a lot of people think that they are in danger, but unreasonably.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
Or, for example, if the cars in a car dealership were in danger and they decided to, I don't know, attack someone with a rifle in Kenosha, Wisconsin. and-
Unrequested for that backup.
Right.
That fucking
Exactly.
judge, man.
That judge should be removed from the bench. That guy is
Forever.
It's so
Blatant.
blatant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fucking bad.
It's
really gross.
really fucking bad.
Anyway.
That was
yay.
exactly where my mind was. So you read
Uh-huh.
my mind.
Okay.
For the first time ever.
Yeah, that never happens. We're never
Never.
aligned on any of these things.
Well, we share a mens rea.
A guilty mind.
So I got a little bit of history for us.
Ooh.
Let's go all the way back.
Herstory.
Her story. It's actually very much his story. All the way back to 1862 in Germany, where
Ooh.
Wilhelm Wundt, there's a
What
photo
I
on the
wouldn't
drive.
do.
He won't be held responsible.
There's
She
a-
was touching her face.
Okay, there's a photo on the drive, which will be on the blog. I think he's adorable.
Show me.
Look, he's at the bottom, Wilhelm Wundt. He's got like
that
the
old
slightly-
man?
The old man. He looks like an owl.
He is
crossed
like a
arms.
little owl.
He does look like an angry owl.
He looks like my great grandfather.
There were
His
several.
glasses are so small.
There were several portraits of him, and the ones that are like face on, he's like a little bit wonky eyed.
Yeah.
Face on. Apply directly to the forehead.
I just think he's precious. Okay, don't at me with all of his problematic bullshit. I'm sure it's out there. I just can't.
Yeah, he's an old white man from the 1800s
She
who's
just
probably
thinks
terrible.
He looks precious. She doesn't
Yeah.
know anything about him besides what she's about to say.
Right. Right. I'm sure he was abusive, whatever.
Watch, he was a saint, and we're going to get added for assuming he was bad.
Don't at me about Wilhelm Wundt. For the last time.
Won't read it.
Okay, so 1862, he offered the first course ever taught in scientific psychology. Until then, psychology had been regarded as a branch of philosophy and therefore was conducted primarily by rational analysis.
The rationalists.
Mm-hmm.
The reasonableists.
He wasn't having any of that. But,
I just wasn't expecting that one.
weren't you?
Weren't you?
I wasn't. I really wasn't.
So Wundt instead stressed that the use of experimental methods drawn from the natural sciences. His work, quote, advanced a system of psychology that sought to investigate the immediate experiences of consciousness, including sensations, feelings, volitions, and ideas. It also contained the concept of apperception or conscious perception. The methodology prescribed was introspection or conscious examination of conscious experience.
Okay.
So this sounds kind of like duh, but they hadn't explicitly studied those things
right.
in like a lab before.
Mm-hmm.
He went on to develop the first psychological lab in the world at the University of Leipzig in 1879.
And they went leaps and bounds.
Leaps.
Above everyone else.
American students traveled to Germany to study with him, and when they returned home, a lot of them had questions about how psychology relates to law, for example, in giving testimonies or regarding an individual's functional capacity. So
it is pretty mind-boggling how recent
Yeah.
these concepts are.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I
Recent.
know that like there were things adjacent to this in like, you know, fucking ancient Babylon. I'm sure like some
Sure.
people couldn't be held responsible for their actions because they were deemed insane.
But that
like,
was a philosophical
right.
thing, not science.
Yeah, not like medical really.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like we
Interesting.
haven't applied science to a lot of aspects in our collective life
Mhm.
until real recently.
Yeah.
And some of us still don't.
Yeah. Humanity
Get your
is
fucking
very
vaccine.
young and stupid.
Yeah.
I'll
a lot
bet.
we're just barely figuring out.
It's a little rough.
But I guess if you think about like moral issues, like the vaccine shouldn't be a moral issue, or like abortion.
Mhm.
For a lot of people, that is science.
Mhm.
It's black and white. And for a lot of people, it is a question of philosophy.
Mhm.
So I think that you can identify a lot of things in our current society now that you might not think could fall into a category like this, but maybe in 100 years we're going to have a completely different
view of
perception.
it. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Catholic Church back in the day didn't believe that life began at conception. They thought it began at the quickening or the first breath.
Mhm.
It is a political issue, and
Moving
I
on.
feel like
And we never get political on
Yeah,
this
that's
show.
not what the show is
No.
about.
let's leave politics at the door.
Nah.
Okay, I got a big old basket by my door.
A basket of politics.
Basket of fucks. So this is from a website called Very Well Mind.
Okay.
Very well mind.
Very well mind. Very well mind. James McKean Cattle conducted some of the earliest research on the psychology of testimony. He posed a series of questions to students at Columbia University, asking them to provide a response and rate their degree of confidence in their answer. He found a surprising degree of inaccuracy, inspiring other psychologists to conduct their own experiments in eyewitness testimony. That was a little bit taken out of context. He was James Cattell was doing research on eyewitness testimony.
And then
Okay.
was like, how certain are you that you saw what you saw?
Right.
Yeah, I feel like we all did this in like sociology, psychology 101,
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
have a
for
little
sure.
experiments.
Memory fucks with shit. You don't see what you think you saw all the time.
Mhm.
Context
And I
changes
feel like under
everything.
stress, well, we'll get to it. With even eyewitnesses being unsure of themselves, this raised serious issues about the validity of their usefulness in court. Inspired by his work, Alfred Binet replicated Cattell's research and studied the results of other psychology experiments. I don't know why I'm having a problem talking,
That's
that
all right.
applied to law and criminal justice. His work in intelligence testing was also important to the development of forensic psychology, as many future assessment tools were based off of his work. And there's one that we are about to get to, which you will find familiar.
Great.
Psychologist William Stern also studied witnesses' ability to recall information. In one of his experiments, he asked students to summarize a dispute that they witnessed between two classmates. Stern discovered errors were common among witnesses and concluded that a person's emotions could affect how accurately they remembered things.
Yep.
He
Okay.
also continued to study issues related to court testimony and later established the first academic journal devoted to applied psychology.
Wow.
It's so interesting. I just think back to like, there are some things that I remember very, very vividly, and then there are other things that like don't have any recollection of them even happening.
Sure.
And then for other people that were with me, they remember those, it's like the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not even pertinent, important events. It's just like memory.
Mundane stuff, yeah.
Remember
so
the last time we were all together, someone was telling some story that was like, oh, I did something in school. And then one of us was like, no, that was me. And then a third person was like, no, that was me. I have very vivid memories of whatever we were talking about.
I have
Do
no
you remember
memory of
this?
what that
I
conversation
think that
was.
did.
but
Yeah, it definitely happens with us a lot because it's like
We have a lot of shared core memories.
Yeah.
But they were something like, it was very specific. It was like, I got in trouble for X. And it's like, no, that was me. No, that was me. Like, this is, you can't trust your memories is the bottom line.
It's really weird. Yeah.
You really can't. Okay, so keep in mind all these things that I just listed are happening like in the late 1800s.
Right.
This is all condensed into like a very small window of time. So from there, forensic psychology entered the courts. In 1896, psychologist Albert von Schrank-Notzing.
Wow.
You don't want to shrink your notes thing.
No.
It's a lot of German in
If
here.
it's cold outside, you will shrink your notes thing.
I'm not saying it's cold, but I'm shrank. Anyway, he testified at a murder trial about the effects of suggestibility on witness testimony. In 1915, Hugo Munsterberg
Yes. Yes.
Delicious. Yum.
Yum.
published a book called On the Witness Stand, which advocated for the use of psychology in legal matters. In 1916, 1 year later, the Stanford-Binet test was used to assess the intelligence of job candidates for law enforcement positions, and this test is still used as a typical IQ test today. If that sounds familiar, the Stanford-Binet test.
Don't remember.
Yep. Can't trust my memories.
Don't recall. Also,
Okay.
would want to know more about it because IQ tests are suspicious.
Oh, they're all suspicious. But this one was developed in 1916, so, like, we'll give it a pass. In 1917, psychologist William Marston found that systolic blood pressure had a strong correlation to lying. This discovery would later lead to the design of the modern polygraph detector, go figure. 6 years later, Marston testified in the case of Fry versus the United States, which was the case that established the precedent of the use of expert witnesses in courts. So all of this happened within like a 25-year period.
Yeah.
That's wild.
There was a boom.
Yeah.
Shit.
So
The
we had,
was like-
psychological revolution, baby.
we had a bit of a boom at the beginning of the 20th century. And then forensic psychology kind of cooled off for a while during the World Wars. We were frying
do.
bigger fish. In 1954, several psychologists testified on both sides during Brown versus Board of Education, bringing the discipline back into relevance. And finally, in 2001, forensic psychology was officially recognized as a specialization within psychology by the American Psychological Association.
Oh my God,
That's-
2001.
I didn't realize it took that long. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Holy
Well,
shit.
it's bizarre to me that we were using it as like legitimate stuff in the courts
Without
at the beginning of the
recognizing it.
20th century, and it was almost 100 years later that it was recognized by the APA.
Right.
So
Interesting.
we got there eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
The help of a bunch of Germans and German Americans. So Guten Tag.
Dankeschön.
Oh, Dankeschön.
Darling Dankeschön.
Thank you for all the psych you gave.
All right. Well, well done.
That's my segment. A little bit of a
Phenomenal.
background. I think it's interesting the difference between forensic psychology and legal psychology because they're very similar,
Mm-hmm.
but frankly, forensic psychology is a little more interesting.
Oh,
There
for
are
sure.
a lot more uses of it than I realized.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Even
ways that it
like,
can be used in the courts and in forensics.
Even as part of like a high school counseling
Mm-hmm.
group, there could be a forensic psychologist like working in there. They're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're among us.
For like dealing with high troubled teens? What?
Yeah,
Okay.
potentially. I mean,
For sorting
obviously
into colleges?
Right? I don't want that.
no. For students who are having legal troubles,
Mhm.
Okay.
which, or it could go back to the like a child custody
I
situation.
was going to say like
Oh.
a CPS or custody intervention
Right.
that could be
Yeah.
applicable for sure.
So really, there are a lot of applications for forensic psychology
Mm-hmm.
related to the court system, but as we know from doing this show, the court system touches so many different areas,
Right.
all sorts of given areas in anyone's life. So
Right. So if you think of forensic as a term that just pertains the application of psychology to the justice or judicial system, then yeah, it's going to have a wide reach.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we say forensic in the context of criminality.
Right. Solving
it's
a
not
crime, collecting
necessarily.
evidence. Yeah, exactly.
It's just related to the court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So,
As we learned from the etymology.
Yeah.
yes.
Love.
Well
well
done.
done.
Of ancient Rome. Thanks.
I learned so much from you when I'm paying attention.
When you're sober and attentive.
Are you ready for my case?
Always. Never.
Usually
Let's
not.
go.
You're not. I'm telling you right now, you're not.
Warning, you're not.
You're not ready.
Ooh.
And this guy is one of the worst human beings I have yet covered. Okay?
Cool, 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 cool.
Okay.
And it's me.
Oh, you're not the perp.
Should
No.
I go get some alcohol?
I meant like that I've covered, and I've
Great.
covered some doozies.
Right,
Yikes.
right.
So,
Oh,
blanket everything warning. Here we go.
blanket me.
Yeah, but cover
Clutch
yourself.
your blanket warning.
Weight yourself down.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Okay.
So, James Clayton Vaughn Jr., never trust a middle name Clayton,
Mm.
Ooh, that's rough.
was born in 1950 in Mobile, Alabama. He was one of 4 siblings, and his father, James Clayton Vaughn Sr., was a
Twist.
Twist. was a World War II veteran who made his living as a butcher.
God, this is already creepy.
James Sr. was also an alcoholic and regularly abused his wife and children. I know you're both shocked.
Yeah, my
Match.
jazz on the flyer.
Zach and I were watching the Ken Burns baseball documentary last night because I just
Because you've given
'Cause
up.
You've given up.
Yeah.
just didn't care.
You've
You
given
just
up
went
on
limp.
fighting for your rights
I
in your
did.
marriage.
I went limp. Normally I get to choose, but I just was like,
Like,
okay,
I don't know.
fine.
He cooks, so
You did watch Practical Magic a couple of times in the last month, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, fine. It's history. I'll do it. There was this part where it was like, born in Truxton, New York, one of 9 children. His father was an alcoholic and beat the family. His mother died when he was 6, and then 4 of his siblings also died of typhoid, and then he ran away at 12. And we were
sounds
just
like,
like,
the interview your dog sitter gave you today.
Oh my
Totally.
Anyway, it was just like every sentence was like more 1890s than the last
Yeah.
sentence.
Oh, God, typhoid. There's
Oh my God.
Then he hopped on a train and rode the rails with his knapsack on a stick over his shoulder.
1000%.
Perpetually dirty.
Never learned to read or write, but man, could he hit a ball.
He was a southpaw.
He lived off baked beans.
I could live off baked beans, though.
I really could.
Okay.
I fucking love
love
baked
baked
beans. I'm
beans.
texting Bill that I want baked beans with dinner tonight.
Text
What, this
Lori.
happens every
Every
episode. Every episode. Bill, please incorporate baked beans into dinner tonight.
Okay, so James and his shitty father. Okay. When James Jr. was 8, his father abandoned the family.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Are you talking? Is this about the baseball guy?
No, I just thought of that. Although conditions were undoubtedly better without Senior around, James Jr. would later claim that his mother, quote, didn't care about him or his siblings and that they were often neglected and rarely given enough to eat.
Oh.
Maybe this is true. Maybe she was just dealing with the trauma of the abuse that she had suffered from her husband and like the stress of raising children alone at this time. I don't know.
That's a lot.
Didn't
All of
sound
that is a lot.
Yeah.
great. By the time he was in high school, James Jr. was already headed down a very dark path. He developed an interest in evangelical Christianity.
Oh, no.
And this was on his
path.
own. A dark path.
That is dark.
That's the darkest timeline, in my opinion. Which soon escalated to an interest in white supremacy and Nazism, because for some people, all of those things are aligned.
Yeah.
Correlation. Not causation, but correlation.
Yikes.
He would later recall reading Hitler's Mein Kampf as a life-changing experience.
Just a light
German.
read. Just a casual.
So much German and psychology.
Yeah.
Well, isn't Freud German?
Austrian, maybe? But so was Hitler.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The father of psychology.
No, that was Wilhelm.
Well, yeah.
Won't. I won't repeat myself.
Won't get it twisted. Twisted.
Amazing. Won't get it twisted.
Quote, I've never felt that way about any other book that I read. He probably didn't read that many books. It was something weird about that book. It's not even... okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's weird about it. Hitler wrote it.
Yeah.
There's your first red flag. Yeah.
By the time he was in his early 20s, he was an official member of the National Socialist White People's Party.
Oh,
really,
God.
really had to like
On the
drive
nose.
it home. I love
White
that
People's Party.
heavy-handedness.
God.
And
Fucking chill.
and the Ku Klux Klan, which is very difficult to say. He also changed his name from James Clayton Vaughn Jr. to Joseph Paul Franklin.
Okay.
And this was a name that he chose in order to pay homage to Paul Joseph Goebbels. Goebbels, the Nazi Goebbels.
Oh.
Ugh.
And
Goebbels?
yeah, but it's pronounced Goebbels.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You gotta gorgle it.
Yeah.
Goebbels.
Goebbels.
Okay.
The Nazi Goebbels and Benjamin Franklin,
What
who
an
we were
odd
just
mix.
talking about the other day.
I thought Ben Franklin was like kind of cool.
I don't
Listen,
think Ben Franklin
Thomas
aligned with any of
Jefferson
this. Yeah.
invented the bifocal.
Thomas Jefferson had nothing to do with bifocals. It's like the one fact you should know about Ben Franklin.
I don't know.
I don't think Ben Franklin was bad. I don't know. I think for him it was just like a founding father. I don't know. He
Listen, they're
latched
all
onto it.
bad. They're all bad.
Yeah. And that, well, compared to
Right.
I don't think he was an
Compared
enslaver.
to gerbils, he's probably fine.
Yeah. Anyway, some people say that the Franklin came from a like an evangelist preacher named Joseph Franklin. I don't know.
Okay.
So now we're gonna call him Joseph Paul Franklin,
JP.
this guy, because he changed his name. Eventually, he left Mobile, Alabama, and settled into an existence as a drifter, moving up and down the East Coast and
Living
Can't
off
wait to
baked
settle into an
beans.
existence.
living off baked beans and all of his possessions.
He was a
in
southpaw.
a Confederate flag handkerchief
Oh my
hanging
God.
from his stick.
I'm sorry, but now in my mind, the baseball player
Dirty.
and this guy are
It's the same guy.
fucking
Yeah.
thing.
We
I know.
blended the identities.
I know.
Your
Don't tell
anecdote
Zach. He'll be upset.
really fucked me up.
I'm sorry.
Zach's going to be pissed that you ruined baseball for us. Because we've just
It's just the
layered this
sport of
evil Nazi
baseball.
over this poor innocent baseball player.
So, memory can get
Can't
fucked
trust
up.
it.
Eyewitness testimony.
I would testify in court that baseball player was a nomadic Nazi with a Confederate flag pinned to him.
Who lived 100 years later.
I saw it.
So anyway,
A saint it.
he's a drifter. He's supporting himself through a combination of bank robberies and blood bank donations.
Good balance. He's helping society.
Mhm.
Plasma.
So he's robbing money banks and giving blood
to blood.
blood
banks.
banks.
A lot of banks.
Selling
Yeah.
blood. He's not really giving it.
Yeah, he's selling it. So his stated mission during this time was to seek out opportunities to, quote, cleanse the world
No.
of, quote, inferior races.
The only time
Blood
I'm okay with
donation.
the word cleanse is when it's on a facial product.
Yeah.
Or a colon.
Sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. If it's an enema
Mhm.
or some
Bring it
kind
on.
of medical spa procedure.
Fine by
Mhm.
me.
So in 1977, Franklin began translating his hateful ideology into actual crimes. Besides into violent crimes.
Sure.
Okay.
In late July of that year, Franklin planted an incendiary device inside Beth Shalom Synagogue in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Jesus.
And Chattanooga is like a really fun and cute town. And so this is a major bummer.
Great accents.
Yeah. Although the building was entirely destroyed, miraculously no one was killed because low attendance that Friday evening meant that there were not the minimum 10 people required to make up a minyan, which you have to have 12 adults and historically 12 adult men in order to have a religious service
I didn't know that.
Judaism. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So that's part of like turning 13 and having
Right.
a bar or bat mitzvah.
The
then,
mitzvahs, yeah.
then you count as an adult in the minyan.
Got it.
Oh.
Cool.
Right.
I love it.
So they didn't have enough people. There are also like lots of people who like volunteer at synagogues to like always be there to make up the minyan,
Right.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have the 12 people. And so the worshipers went home early because they couldn't have the service. So luckily, like that was a miracle and amazing. And so
Yeah,
his
that people
attack
left.
didn't kill anyone.
Yeah.
Because
But it
otherwise it
did
would
blow
have
up.
been the building was destroyed.
Right, but it was empty, thank
Right.
God. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a Friday night, so it was like Shabbat services.
Right.
Like it should have been, he had like done his homework.
Yeah, it was like a total fluke that it wasn't full,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, however, Franklin's next attack, which came only about a week later, would be deadly. On August 7th, 1977, he shot and killed a young interracial couple, Alphonse Manning Jr. and Tony Schwen, Tony with an I, in a parking lot in Madison, Wisconsin.
Good Lord.
He's all over the place.
Yeah, well, he's a drifter.
Oh, true.
A couple months later, Franklin struck again, this time in a suburb of St. Louis, Missouri. He concealed himself in some bushes outside of the Brith Shalom Knesset Israel synagogue and began firing at worshipers as they arrived for services.
Jesus Christ.
He reportedly chose this specific synagogue at random from the local fucking yellow pages.
Ugh.
Ew.
Yet another reason to get rid of the yellow pages.
Amanda's was at the Yellow Pages.
I mean, both. There's enough to go around, but it's a waste of paper and it gives people too much information. Not that they can't find it all on the internet.
I haven't
but
seen a
still,
Yellow Pages in a very long time.
They exist.
They exist. I almost worked for the Yellow Pages.
Our friendship would have ended.
I did an undercover thing at the Yellow Pages.
Ooh, yeah,
sure
you did.
With Now, right?
Yeah, with the National Organization for Women. Anyway, a 42-year-old man named Gerald Gordon was killed in the shooting and 2 others were injured. So he just, when you just hide in bushes outside of a synagogue and start shooting at people.
You're just picking people off at that point. Yeah.
It's just, what the fuck?
It's disgusting.
You can never feel safe.
Mm-mm.
So Franklin was able to flee the crime scene without being caught, and his status as a drifter meant that authorities had no reason to suspect at this point that this attack was part of a larger spree or the attack in Chattanooga necessarily. Because
hadn't linked them.
They hadn't linked them because they're so far apart. One was an incendiary device, one was a shooting, and there's
the MO is
there's a lot of anti-Semitism.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unfortunately,
the pickings are not slim.
Right.
Yeah.
So Franklin's next attack did not occur until March of 1978, and this time he focused his murderous rage on a much more high-profile target. Carrying a Marlin .44 caliber semi-automatic rifle, which apparently is a weapon that's designed to kill large game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
He ambushed hustler publisher Larry Flint.
Oh.
And
no way. What a weird.
Yeah. And his lawyer, Gene Reeves, as they walked from a restaurant where they had eaten lunch to a courthouse in Lawrenceville, Georgia, where they were fighting misdemeanor obscenity charges. So he just zeroed in on Larry fucking Flint.
Okay.
That's so odd.
Reeves fell into a coma as a result of the shooting, from which he eventually awoke and made a full and miraculous recovery.
Whoa.
But Flint was left a paraplegic, which I didn't know any of this about Larry Flint.
I didn't either.
That's so weird.
Yeah. Although there were several conspiracy theories surrounding this shooting, including that Flint had been targeted by the U.S. government, it is now pretty much universally agreed that Franklin was the shooter and that he targeted Flint because of his anger over a magazine spread that featured interracial sex.
Oh,
God, this guy needs to fucking relax.
Yeah.
Yep.
God.
Again, Franklin was able to successfully flee the scene. And it would not be tied to him until much, much later. Because he's just so random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After the Flint shooting, Franklin continued his rampage, always staying on the move and never striking in the same place twice in a row. So he committed crimes far and wide.
Oh.
See.
Although, in July of 1978, he returned to Chattanooga, where he shot and killed another black man, the victim named Bryant Tatum. And he also shot Tatum's white girlfriend, Nancy Hilton, who survived.
Did he kill the other couple?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he killed both of them.
Okay.
Alphonse Manning Jr. and Tony Schwen.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, interracial couples seemed to become the primary focus of his hatred. He was also doing the synagogue stuff, but now he's zeroing in on the interracial stuff.
Yeah.
This is still not linked by authorities?
No. About a year later, in July of 1979, he fatally shot a black man named Harold McIver in Doraville, Georgia, as he worked a night shift at a fast food restaurant that he managed because Franklin believed him to be in, quote, close contact with several white women.
Oh my God.
3 months later, in Oklahoma City, he attacked another interracial couple, shooting and killing a man named Jesse Taylor and his longtime partner, Marion Brissett. In May of 1980, Franklin once again went after another high-profile target. He shot business executive and civil rights activist Vernon Jordan outside of a Marriott hotel in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He's just like
Going. Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
All the fuck over the place.
At the time, Jordan was the president of the National Urban League. Franklin reportedly chose him as a target after seeing him out having drinks with a white woman named Martha Coleman, who was a member of the league, and followed the two as they left the bar in her car.
My God.
So he's just like keeping an eye out. And if
Right.
he ever like sees an interracial couple or even
Right.
like people hanging out,
Right. It's attack
He was
mode.
patrolling.
Right. Yep.
he shot Jordan twice in the back as he exited Coleman's car in the hotel's parking lot around 2 a.m. So I don't think he knew that he was as high profile as he was. I think he just literally saw them at the bar.
God.
Jordan was seriously injured but managed to survive the assassination attempt. At first, suspicion fell on Martha herself, who had been the only witness to the shooting. Neighbors interviewed by police spoke of her 4 failed marriages and, quote, suspicious social ties.
Oh, for God's
God's
sake.
So basically, her neighbors were like, well, I think she's a slut, and she
Right.
probably did it, because, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
This woman is just living her life.
Right.
One neighbor told People magazine in 1980 that, quote, there were a lot of men going in and out of her house. She had more black friends than white.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh my gosh. What a scandal.
Ugh.
Yep. This was not that long ago. That was in
No.
1980.
Yeah.
Jesus.
However, another neighbor who was interviewed seemed to believe the rumors about Martha's involvement in the shooting were motivated primarily by jealousy and quote, she had money, did as she pleased, and led the kind of independent life most women around here wish they could.
Yep. There you go.
She was Amanda.
She had money. She did as she pleased.
She didn't have no kids.
I don't know how many people wish they could, but
You can.
it's not bad. I'm doing
She had
okay.
rabbits.
I do have rabbits.
So Jordan went on to make a full recovery and would eventually become a close advisor to President Clinton. Like in the case of the Flint shooting, it would not be until years after the fact that this attempt on his life would be tied to Joseph Paul Franklin. It was just like random, they thought. A week after shooting Vernon Jordan, Franklin was in Cincinnati, Ohio. His chosen targets for his next attack were another interracial couple, and he had positioned himself on an overpass where he believed he would have a vantage point to shoot them when
Oh
they
my
walked by.
God. Ugh.
He hides
Holy
in
shit.
bushes. He ambushes people in parking lots.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Absolute psycho.
Yeah. Total fucking nutsing.
Just lying in wait for Jews or black people
Right.
Yep.
to
Yep.
come by.
I mean,
So you can just take them out.
That's-
But before the couple in question arrived, 2 black teenagers, Daryl Lane, who was 14, and Dante Evans Brown, who was 13, walked into Franklin's view.
literal
Oh
children.
my God.
Babies. The 2 boys were cousins who were on their way to the store to buy candy.
Yep.
Franklin decided that they would replace his original targets, and he shot and killed both boys.
Oh my God.
Just walking by.
To buy candy.
Yep, there are photos on the drive of these victims, and they're just such sweet, smiley little babies.
Poor guys.
Told you guys wouldn't like this man.
Yeah, he's
I don't like you.
great. This is great. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
A week after that, he was in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, where he shot and killed 22-year-old Arthur Smothers and 16-year-old Kathleen McCullough, another interracial couple.
Good God.
And only 10 days after that, he struck again in Pocahontas County, West Virginia. So he's just like practically always in a different state.
Yeah, he's moving
Yeah.
around. I know he's a drifter, but he's moving around a lot.
Well, at this point, it's probably on purpose. He's fleeing
Oh, of course.
the scene.
Yeah.
It's just interesting how
So
he's
it-
able to do that.
So in West Virginia, he shot and killed 2 white women, 26-year-old Vicky Durian and 19-year-old Nancy Santomero. Franklin would later confess to this crime, saying that he had picked the two women up as hitchhikers and decided to kill them after one of them mentioned having a black boyfriend.
Wait. He's a drifter, but he must have a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
sometimes
he's driving.
he has a car. Yeah.
God.
You were still picturing baseball man hopping
Yep.
trains.
Yep.
Yes.
With
I told
smudged dirt
you.
face. I know. It's 1980.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Okay.
not hopping on trains as much.
Eating beans with a dirty
As
face.
much.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. He
Yeah,
also has absolutely no qualms with killing children.
No,
This man
he's-
is a complete psychopath.
Yeah. And he's selling his blood to blood banks for cash and
Yep.
just driving and murdering people.
Making it work.
Yep.
Can't be that lucrative.
Well, we will get to it. So then in August of 1980, Franklin shot and killed two black men named Ted Fields and David Martin in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
This would be his last known attack before he was finally apprehended.
Thank Christ, it's about fucking time.
Yeah.
On his way back east from Utah, Franklin was stopped by police in Kentucky and questioned about a firearm that was in his car.
Uh-oh.
He fled from the officers, which, like, if he had just been chill,
Mm-hmm.
they probably would have let him go,
Yeah.
arousing their suspicions. And it was not long before he was considered a potential suspect in several sniper killings that by that
Cool.
point had been tied to each other despite the different locations. So the like overpass one and, you know, some of the other ones. The officers who detained Franklin had noticed several conspicuous racist tattoos, providing further indication that he may have been responsible for the obviously racially motivated killings.
Mm-hmm.
Which I still feel like that was a lucky traffic stop in Kentucky because there could be a lot of people that fit that bill. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Psychologists in the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit
Now it's circling. Here we go.
Mine hunters.
We're getting there.
had been at work creating a profile of the unknown perpetrator of these crimes, the ones that they had linked. Based on the limited information available, they believe that he used at least 18 pseudonyms, changed cars and weapons frequently, and regularly dyed his hair different colors.
Wow.
Ooh.
The profile focused on the common theme of racism that tied the crimes together and led profilers to predict that Franklin would eventually return to a familiar and comfortable area like Mobile, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Where his tattoos might not look so conspicuous.
Right, where he could blend in
Yeah.
with his guns and his racist bumper stickers and his racist tattoos.
Right.
Ugh.
And this is exactly what he did. He was briefly spotted in Mobile, but happened to evade capture that time. But they were like, okay, we think it's this guy. Investigators soon discovered Franklin's habit of donating blood when he was in need of extra cash. And actually, I read that was part of the profile on him as well. They were like, he's probably some kind of drifter, can't hold down a job. And one of the ways that people can make cash
Yep.
easily
donating
from
blood.
anywhere is donating blood.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in the profile thanks to a forensic psychologist.
Cool.
So they issued a nationwide alert that blood banks should be on the lookout for someone matching this description.
Whoa.
Smart.
Isn't that smart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long before a blood bank worker in Florida noticed Franklin's racist tattoos and called police to report his location.
Yes.
Good. Good job.
Isn't that amazing?
That is
I think
really
that is
cool.
so fucking smart.
It's
Well,
super smart.
considering you have anywhere in the country
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be looking for this person.
Yeah,
it's
it's like,
really
all right.
smart.
And all the blood banks, you know, pretty much communicate with one another, I would imagine. So it's easy to send out a kind of alert and bulletin. You don't have to phone up each one.
Right.
Mhm.
It's interesting. And you got they're a sitting duck for a while when you're getting their blood.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, because they have, it takes a minute.
Right.
Dang.
Love it. You can can make them wait around doing some paperwork.
Absolutely.
And early 80s, maybe they didn't have this technology, but you have their DNA when they
Dino
leave.
DNA.
That's true. I don't think they had quite realized that. It
They
wasn't
could maybe do the
Seasons
what's
of
it
blood.
called?
blood type. secretor, non-secretor.
They could at least do
Stuff.
that very basic stuff.
But I don't think he really left. He didn't really leave any DNA at any of his crimes because there was like, except for the bomb attack.
But
They were
wasn't
all
he in
so-
trouble earlier in life for something stupid? So maybe
Sure.
they had it on file.
But I mean, at his crimes, like when he's sniping people from a overpass, or he's, they didn't have epithelial DNA back then. He wasn't raping people, so it was
CODIS, probably.
right. So there's not much to test from the crime scenes.
Right.
Anyway,
In another world.
right. So anyway, the blood bank thing, I thought it was genius.
Yeah, that is
Yes,
genius.
It is.
And he was arrested in Lakeland, Florida on October 28th, 1980.
Bye-bye.
Charging him with his crimes, though, proved complex because they had taken place in so many different states. I mean, we have Tennessee, Indiana, West
Right.
Virginia,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania,
Wisconsin.
Utah, Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's all over the damn place.
So Utah was the first case to go to trial, and a jury sentenced him in 1981 to 4 life terms for the murders of Ted Fields and David Martin.
Were those the little boys?
No, these were 2 other black male victims.
Okay.
Other states soon followed suit, and by 1986, he was facing charges in Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Indiana, Ohio, and Florida, which is not even all of the states that could have prosecuted. In some states, authorities simply considered their cases closed without actually bothering to charge him because he had already racked up so many life sentences in other trials that they were just like, we're not going to waste the state's resources.
Yeah.
While serving his life sentences for the Utah murder, Franklin confessed to shooting Larry Flint back in 1978, which they never thought it was him
Right.
for that one.
Right.
Because like people thought it was somebody who cared about like indecent exposure and
Totally.
movies and whatever. And like
Well,
it was
there
such.
were conspiracy theories that it was the U.S. government.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So he was then indicted but never tried for that crime, and because he was already facing all these other penalties. So Franklin was convicted in the 1977 murder of Gerald Gordon outside of the Missouri synagogue, for which he received another death sentence when he was like waiting in the bushes.
Ugh.
Overall, investigators believe Franklin is responsible for at least 18 murders
Wow.
and 5 non-fatal shootings in
Oh my
11
God.
states,
What?
plus 2 bombings and 16 bank robberies.
Oh,
Wow.
my God.
And in like we mentioned earlier, in so many places. I mean, he was like all over the place.
In a span of like,
Not that long.
Not that long.
Yeah.
Like
a handful
like
of years.
3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Right. I guess
Oh,
what
my
I'm-
God.
one thing that I've realized from doing this podcast is that bank robberies
Right.
are usually just like the fucking tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
It's feel like people who are willing to like do a fucking bank robbery, they're gonna escalate to doing some other wild shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bank robberies are so dramatic.
Yeah.
And they happen like kind of a lot.
Kind
Yeah.
of a lot.
They're pretty common.
And if you can get away with that, probably feel
Right.
really emboldened to do whatever the
Exactly.
fuck else you
The
want.
adrenaline.
Yeah, the adrenaline, it gives you a rush. It's like an addiction.
Yeah. So Ohio prosecutor Joe Dieters referred to Franklin as, quote, the worst serial killer I have ever dealt with.
Oh my
Ooh.
God. Just a shit person.
Yep. Dieters
I
became...
mean, not that that's surprising, but still.
He's like a maniac.
when you regularly deal with violent criminals
and this guy is hands down the worst.
to earn the worst serial killer I've ever dealt with is quite an honor.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of freaks who come out of Ohio, too.
Yeah, I mean, look at Christine from And That's Why We Drink.
Can't trust her.
Freak.
Total freak.
We love you, Christine.
We love you so much.
I can't wait to meet Liana.
Obviously, that's a joke.
Okay, so this guy became personally involved in the case in 1997 after Franklin confessed to a cellmate that he had shot and killed 2 black teenagers in Cincinnati back in 1980. So now he's like just confessing in prison because like he doesn't have fucking anything to lose.
Right.
So were those the 2 young boys?
Well, I believe that he's referring. Were those 2 boys in Cincinnati? He has so many victims.
Yeah.
I know.
And he's
We
killed
can't keep
other
up.
teenagers that I don't remember if those 2 were in Cincinnati.
They were.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
So,
A week after the shooting, Franklin was in Cincinnati, and that's when he killed the Daryl Lane, 14, and Dante Evans Brown, 13.
okay. So then it's them. So Dieter set out to get a confession on the record and finally closed the case of the murders of Daryl Lane. Okay, and Dante Evans Brown, sorry. Dieter recalls being told that Franklin hated men and would be more likely to talk to an attractive young white woman.
Mm-hmm.
Basically a Fox News correspondent they
Yeah.
like brought in to interview him because otherwise he wasn't going to talk.
Mm-hmm.
So Franklin agreed, and they solicited the help of a young assistant prosecutor named Melissa Powers. And there is a photo of Melissa on the drive.
Mm-hmm.
Great bangs.
Yeah.
So Franklin agreed to see Powers if
Great bangs.
if she would agree to a handful of his conditions. And these were his conditions. No cameras, but she was allowed a tape recorder. And no meeting on Hitler's birthday because that was a holiday for him.
He prefers to observe privately.
He prefers to observe 420.
Mm-hmm.
God.
Yeah, and I'm sure
God.
she was like,
God.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all right. I'll cancel all my other plans.
Yeah, oh no, cancel my Hitler's birthday barbecue.
Right.
Jesus. He is such a weirdo.
He's
Absolute
a fucking piece of shit.
psycho.
So Powers would later say, quote, basically what I was doing was very similar to what Clarice was doing in Silence of the Lambs. I would keep hitting him with how smart he was or how only he could have figured that out and got him, warmed up.
Stroke the ego. Yep.
Yep.
Smart.
Powers succeeded in getting Franklin to confess on tape not only to the murders of Daryl and Dante, but to 4 others as well that he had not previously been tied to.
Mm-hmm.
She also testified as a witness at his trial. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And he was convicted and sentenced to 2 more life sentences.
Wow.
And although these sentences are like largely symbolic and for the families, as he was like already facing the death penalty in, I think, multiple states, Powers
Matters to the victims.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To those families.
Powers stated in an interview, quote, I think for the families, especially the mothers of these children, to get that closure meant quite a bit to them. And I think that was the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It matters.
Yeah.
Those poor
Can you imagine
babies.
your 13-year-old
Yeah.
son and his 14-year-old cousin are
Literal
just walking
children.
to get candy?
Mowed down
Mowed
by
down
a
by
racist.
a crazy fucking
Yeah,
out-of-state
psychotic racist. Yeah.
from an overpass.
Just hiding. Ugh.
Fucking Christ. I mean, no, I can't imagine that. That'd be horrific.
So there was a fair amount of pushback against the death penalty sentence for him. And some of this came from a psychiatrist named Dorothy Otnow Lewis, who had interviewed Franklin at length and testified that she believed that he was a paranoid schizophrenic and unfit to stand trial. And she noted his history of delusional thinking, for example, refusing to grant certain interviews if phone number digits added up to what he believed to be an unlucky number.
Huh. Okay. A little odd, but
Yep.
okay.
There's also, a Nazi into numerology.
Yep.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. And his childhood history of abuse. Personally, I don't think that I'm obviously a doctor,
Yeah.
but I don't think
Obviously.
he super fits the profile of a paranoid schizophrenic. I think he's just a nutbag, but whatever. Larry Flint himself called for leniency, not letting him out of prison, but just not the death penalty.
Sure.
Stating, quote, that a government that forbids killing among its citizens should not be in the business of killing people itself. So he just has like a blanket stance against the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
There were also concerns about the drug that would be used for the lethal injection, which was a new formula that required only a single drug and had never been used before because the state of Missouri had not executed anyone in over 3 years. But despite various objections, Franklin, who was now 63, was executed on November 20th, 2013, and he had no final words. So that's just how he went out.
Wow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Not, I'm against the death penalty, but like, bye-bye.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the guy.
Wild.
But the blood bank thing really got me. It was like, that makes so much sense. And then it actually is how they caught him.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That is very smart.
Very interesting. Good work.
Nice work. I'd never heard of that guy.
I
sad.
hadn't either, and he is horrific.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real sad stuff there,
Mm-hmm.
Kenyon.
Well,
You're welcome.
Great
You're
work. So are you ready for my case, which is people don't die.
Oh, okay.
great.
Winner, winner,
great,
chicken
great.
dinner.
List.
So this is a famous case, but one that I knew very little about because once again, I am the least educated true crime podcaster when it comes to true crime.
Yep.
It's like I have the memory of a goldfish. I'm learning everything for the first time every day. It's 51st dates over here.
Uh-huh.
So it's great. Found my wallet, by the way.
3 weeks later.
Over a month. Okay, so let's
Only
go.
had to replace 2 credit cards.
Only had to replace 2 cards. I feel good about that. Let's go back in time to New York City on November 16th, 1940, which is actually almost 81 years to the day as we're recording this.
Wow. Just
Wild,
an
right?
even 81 years ago.
Uh-huh. Yep. So creepsters. Anyway, so on that chilly November day at the Consolidated Edison Power Plant on 170 West 64th Street in Manhattan, folks arriving for work found an odd item perched on a windowsill. And I'm not sure if this was inside or outside of the building, but I think it was outside. I just didn't dig deep enough to confirm this, but I'm pretty sure it was outside. What they found was a weathered wooden toolbox wrapped in a note that read, "Con Edison crooks, this is for you." Signed FP. Obviously creeped out by this, the local authorities were called to remove and evaluate the contents of the box. And inside, they found the makings of a crude pipe bomb with an ignition mechanism made of sugar and flashlight batteries, which in the 40s wouldn't be like double A's. It'd probably be like pretty big.
Yeah.
Basically, my diet in college: sugar and flashlight batteries.
Yeah. And what powers your vibrator now in 2021?
And not the modern ones, the big ones.
The big ones. It's a crank.
one of
It
those
shocks you when you touch it.
Yeah. So the bomb didn't go off, and obviously, because they got the note off of it, and investigators were left puzzled as to the intention of the mysterious deliverer. Like, was it meant to remain unsploded so that the recipients could read the note?
Oh,
Unsploded?
Because obviously the note would be
Yeah.
toast if the bomb had actually gone off. So, like, what would have been the point of the note? You know, so
Right.
maybe it was an intentional dud to just send a message.
oh.
That a quiet year went by without any leads or new discoveries when in September of 1941, again, almost a year later, another bomb was found in the street about 5 blocks from Consolidated Edison headquarters. This bomb did not go off either, but this time no note was attached. Investigators were able to surmise that the bomb was made by the same person because it was almost identical to the previous and seemed to be targeting Consolidated Edison.
Yeah.
But also theorized that the deliverer was accidentally stopped in the act of delivering and igniting this bomb, which is why it didn't make it any closer to Con Edison and why it never went off. So, like, maybe a passing police officer scared him off or a nosy stranger got in the way. We don't know.
Mhm. The need to shit.
The need to shit ran him off. You never know. So 2 months later, the United States enters World War II in December of 1941. A letter arrived that same month to a nearby New York precinct in the exact penmanship of the note wrapped around the first bomb. This note read, quote, "I will make no more bomb units for the duration of the war. My patriotic feelings have made me decide this. Later, I will bring the Con Edison to justice. They will pay for their dastardly deeds. FP."
What the fuck? Do you think you're in a comic book?
I mean, it was the 40s, first of all. Second of all, we just don't write like we used to, and I'm sad about it. Bring back dastardly.
Yeah, dastardly.
Bring it
Dastardly's
back.
good.
But FP wasn't kidding.
Patriotic feelings.
Won't let him. He
Oh my
wasn't
God.
wasn't kidding. He didn't plant a single bomb for a decade as the U.S. participated in World War II, and then obviously the war ended in like 1945. But then we were recovering from World War II.
Oh, so good thing his patriotic feelings endured.
Built that in, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
What the
he
fuck?
wasn't quiet during that time though. He sent a lot of letters. So
Yeah.
clearly he didn't
A
enlist.
lot of feels.
Despite his patriotic feelings, he did not enlist, or he was too old to enlist,
Mhm.
or had a health condition that wouldn't let him enlist. So
Right.
like they're starting to
got
chip
info.
away. They have some very pertinent information, and we'll get to it.
And he fucking hates Con Ed. There's
Yup.
probs a reason for that.
Yep. So he wrote a lot of letters and sent them to police stations, newspapers, Con Edison, of course, and even just random people like civilians of New York City who like do not know this
Once
person.
again, the yellow pages, the phone
Yup.
book, strike
Get fucking
again.
rid of it. Get rid of it. Investigators diligently studied, I've had one, the penmanship of the letters, most of which were immediately turned into the police. So if like this is in the press, it's been going on. These letters have been sent over the course of a decade. People know, and they're like, I got this weird fucking letter. I'm just going to hand it over.
Right.
So they're looking at the penmanship and they notice an odd style choice in the way the letters Y and G were written. And there's a scan of one of his letters on the drive if you want to look at it. So like if you look at the Y in the he writes all in uppercase, and like the tail of the Y has like a weird bump in it, like a squiggle. And then his G's are very odd. Like that he has, it almost looks like a C with two lines coming out from
his
either break in the
G's
C.
His G's are bizarre.
Very distinct.
I've
Very
never
distinct.
seen a G like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll get to the G, baby.
All caps.
Oh, I like the G.
I like it too, but maybe, not one to
Maybe don't
To
copy
mimic.
this.
You know what it
guys.
looks like? The little fart cloud emoji
Oh, it does, but without without
does.
bubbles.
without the bubbles.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you look at the word ago,
Uh-huh.
it really looks like that A is just farting on that O.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So,
Or the other way around, sorry.
yeah, you nailed it. Some experts attributed these differences in how he's writing to a possible Eastern European education. So apparently this is maybe like a thing in Eastern European language
Okay.
and penmanship. So this obviously was not much to go on because it's fucking New York City. And like, there's a lot of immigrants and a lot of people living there. But they were combing through Con Edison's list of past and present employees and chipping away at this case as best they could. But there were so many possible leads and so many former employees with a reason to hate Con Edison that this didn't narrow things down all that much. Not substantially enough to even really be conducting interviews, at least at the time. So then, in March of 1951, several years after the war had ended, another bomb popped up in New York City, this time in Grand Central Station. This bomb was not a dud and did go off, but thankfully didn't injure anyone, which is kind of amazing. And as I was writing this, I was like, how the fuck? But then as we go on, you come to realize that these bombs are small, localized explosions. They're not massive.
They're sugar and battery.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
sugar and batteries in a small.
He didn't
pipe
know what
bomb.
the fuck he was really doing.
Well, he knew exactly what he was doing, but he didn't. He was trying to send a message. He wasn't trying to kill anybody.
Blow up the building.
Exactly. So, but it's still pretty amazing because this was placed in one of those tall ashtrays with sand in the bottom.
uh-huh.
So those, and that would have been made. They're not
That
plastic
would have
in
been
the
like
50s.
shrapnel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could have been really bad. It's got sand and metal in the bottom of
Yeah.
it. And it was right outside of the Grand Central Oyster Bar and Restaurant. So it's like a high traffic spot.
I want oysters.
I know, right? I'll add that to my baked beans list.
Oh, not a good combo.
Listen,
Oh, yuck.
don't tell me how to eat. A month later, another bomb goes off in a telephone booth at the New York Public Library. Once again, no injuries. And things are then quiet until August when another bomb went off in another phone booth, this time back at Grand Central Station. Again, no injuries.
So scary.
So police didn't immediately connect the dots because without like intact bombs to collect, they couldn't be sure this was the work of FP. And these were not targeted at Con Edison. So, and they're just these like little kind of annoying bombs.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought it was like a bunch of shitty teenagers pulling pranks around the city. But then a bomb went off shortly after in another phone booth, but this time at Con Edison headquarters, and they figured it out. But still, no injuries.
Wow.
So then another bomb was mailed to a Con Edison location in White Plains, New York, and this one did not go off at all, and investigators were able to evaluate it and attribute its build officially to FP, though he had gotten more advanced in his construction, which led some investigators to believe that he may have military and like mechanic training.
Because it's pre-internet, so it wasn't so easy to just like go online, go on Reddit and figure out how to make a fucking...
he was like learning as he did.
Every time you
So-
say FP, I have to remind myself it's not fucking patriarchy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Neither this case nor Taylor Swift are referencing our
I know.
FP.
Sadly, I really woke up
We
this
wanted it to be
morning
true.
to reports that Taylor Swift shouted out Whining Crime on her new album. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. My life has changed. We're going to be number one. My whole world has changed.
No.
Whatever. No, she just said, fuck the patriarchy, which is great. And
Right.
I support it. But it
But we
definitely
did not
was,
invent
we
that.
didn't invent that, sadly.
And yeah.
But Taylor, get
I'm-
at us.
Yeah, hopefully
we're
now
wrong.
hopefully now enough people have been tagging us in her shit.
Yeah.
For her
If
to be
that
like,
was
what
an
is
Easter
this?
egg,
Yeah,
Yeah,
girl, we
really.
will send you all the free merch you want.
seriously. T Swift, if you're listening,
Mm-hmm.
reach out.
We
Have your
got
people
you.
contact our people.
We will send you an FP onesie for each of your cats.
It worked out great for Kat Dennings. I mean, she came on our show and years later was in WandaVision. And
Well, look at that.
I think
You're
there's
welcome.
that's causation, not correlation right there.
They don't have nothing to do with each other.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, so this is just another small detail for their list of small details that are like leading them nowhere. They're just chipping away at this like massive block with like a tiny pick and a tiny hammer. So FP was a real DQ, a drama queen.
A Dairy Queen.
A Dairy Queen, which
I
now I
also
also
want.
want.
Oysters and
Yeah,
Dairy
God
Queen.
damn it. Why do we always record when we're hungry / why are we always hungry? So he sent another letter to the press, this time to the New York Herald Tribune. In it, he stated that, quote, bombs will continue until the Consolidated Edison Company is brought to justice for their dastardly acts against me. Against me, the person who is anonymous. How can they reconcile their dastardly acts against an anonymous person? But whatever. I have exhausted all other means. I intend with bombs to cause others to cry out for justice with me.
Okay.
Show me
So
that
let's
line
go
of
through
logic.
the Con Ed lawsuits.
Right. Well, we'll get to it, but there really weren't any lawsuits. So, like, he definitely did not exhaust all other means. But, yeah. He disclosed possible locations of other bombs that he had planted in that letter that he sent to the press, one of which was found at the Paramount Theater in Times Square. And then on November 28th, in 1951, a bomb went off in a coin-operated locker in a New York City subway station, so you could, like, put in a quarter and get a locker for, like, X amount of hours or whatever. And again, no injuries from either of these, not a fucking packed theater or from this locker.
Amazing.
And the Herald Tribune got another letter shortly thereafter that said, quote, have you noticed the bombs in your city?
Hello. Give me
Jesus.
attention.
Yeah.
I'm
If
not
you are
getting
worried,
enough attention.
I need it. If you are worried, I am sorry. And also, if anyone is injured, period. Like, I'm sorry. but it cannot be helped, for justice will be served. I am not well, and for this I will make the coin Edison sorry. And that is correct. You are not well. I appreciate the self-awareness. All caps. I am not well.
It's like the weepy voice killer. I can't stop
killing someone.
Someone.
Yeah. But like, same.
Yeah, I mean,
I have
written I am not well in all caps as well as yelled it in all caps. So I get it. I feel for this guy.
I'm not well.
Yes, they will regret their dastardly deeds. I will bring them before the bar of justice. Public opinion will condemn them. For beware, I will place more units under theater seats in the near future. FP.
Okay.
So what if so these other targets like Grand Central and the
All over the
theaters
place.
and the phone booths, which had nothing to do with Con Ed, but he just wanted attention.
He wants to bring people into a cause by bombing them when they go to the movies.
Got it.
Or to
Works
take
every
public
time.
transit. Yeah, 100% of the time.
Oh my God.
So FP's reign of terror would continue for 6 more years.
Dear God.
Okay.
In 1952, bombs went off at the Port Authority bus terminal without injury and a Lowe's theater in a fucking seat because he was putting them in theater seats, which did injure a person, but they recovered. In 1953, bombs went off at Radio City Music Hall and again outside that Oyster Bar in Grand Central. In 1954, in a men's room in Grand Central, which injured 3 men using the toilets. A phone booth at Port Authority bus terminal. 1 found but not detonated at Penn Station. Another in another seat at Radio City Music Hall that injured 4 people, but
He
they
just loved Midtown.
He loved Midtown, but this is nuts. So this
He
goes
loved
off.
Midtown. He would not go below 28th
I mean,
or above 50th.
correct, correct. So this bomb goes off in a seat at Radio City Music Hall, injures 4 people, but they finished the show. They moved like 50 people away from that localized seat and finished the show.
It was a different time.
And
They'd
then
seen World War
Different
II.
fucking
And
time.
then the cops came in to search for evidence after they got everyone out of the theater who had enjoyed their theater experience.
Jesus.
I fucking can't. Like,
Once
I know
they
it's a
shoveled
small
away
bomb.
the injured.
Right. No, it's a small bomb. People got like burned in the ass, but it's still a bomb.
Leave
Yeah.
us a rating and review.
Right? Thank God Yelp didn't exist in 1954. Then in 1955, a bomb went off on the platform of a Brooklyn subway station, so we did leave Midtown for that.
Yep.
A seat exploded at the Paramount Theater, slightly bruising someone's butt, but they were like, I'm fine, and walked it off. Several more bombs were found in
Was
other
a
seats
different
at the theater
time.
that day. Yeah, seriously. Pre 9/11, bombs going off all over New York.
Tons of bombs going off in New York. And
Right.
the police were like, whatever.
Back
Yeah.
in
They
those
finished
days.
the show.
So you go to the Paramount, you get a bomb in the ass, you finish the show. You get some free concessions, you finish the show. People these days, too soft. You millennials are too soft.
Here's your participation trophy.
Yeah. They got a bomb in the ass at Radio City Music Hall, didn't even get a refund.
And all I got was this t-shirt.
All I got was this new seat.
And a bruised ass.
Too soft. Anyway, it's like not funny, but it's amazing. Nobody died, so we can laugh. It's fine.
Yeah.
So So in another one went off in Grand Central Station in 1955 in a men's room, again without injury. In 1956 brought the first serious injury when a 74-year-old bathroom attendant at Penn Station got hit when a bomb went off in a toilet while he was plunging it because it was clogged
That's a
because there was
bad-
a fucking bomb in it.
God.
So, like,
no.
someone went to use the bathroom, it wouldn't flush, went to get the janitor,
Yeah.
like the attendant, and he's
Right.
like, all right, he's 74. He's like, God damn it, okay, I'll unclog this. And the whole bowl explodes, and he got hit with, like, broken porcelain and toilet water.
God damn it.
Which
That
is just
a
the fucking
bad day.
cherry on top of an already rough job plunging toilets
on
at
top.
Penn Station.
Yeah.
I can't. He recovered. He wasn't killed, but he was seriously injured. He's an old fucking man.
Yeah.
So
God.
sad. I feel so bad for that guy.
Yeah.
And okay, so this is nuts considering the media attention that these bombs were getting and how fucking long this had been going on in New York City. But this is also
Yeah, Yeah, like 15 years.
This is my favorite part of the whole case. It's just the most New Jersey shit I've ever fucking heard in my life. So a guard who lives in New Jersey but works in New York, he was working a shift at Rockefeller Center, found a piece of pipe in a phone booth. And like, this was FP's MO. Like, it was clearly to set a pipe bomb.
Yeah.
But instead of leaving it the fuck alone and calling it in, the guy's like, yeah, this is a perfect bit of pipe for a home plumbing project I need to finish. So
Somebody left this perfectly good pipe.
now I'm going to pocket this, bring it back home to Jersey.
Oh my God.
So he does, and it explodes on his kitchen table the next morning.
No.
Nobody got hurt, no injury.
God damn it, Jerry! I told you
That's a
not
perfectly
bringing
good piece of
trash
pipe.
home from work.
My
Yeah,
first
can you
thought was
imagine
his
the wife?
is like, fuck! Again.
Hire a plumber! Hire a plumber!
Hire the plumber.
You keep saying you're gonna do it yourself. You're never gonna fucking do it yourself. Just hire a plumber. You just blew up a kitchen table.
You made a
Get
hash out of the drywall. What makes you think you could do plumbing or electrical?
That's a perfectly good piece of pipe. Gonna take it out. I got a plumbing project. I fucking can't. He
My
took it
dad
home like
would do
on
that.
the bus. Back to fucking like Hoboken or Jersey City or wherever the fuck he lives.
Didn't your mom find a piece of pipe in the yard?
Oh,
And
that
she
I
was like-
left there
she
because
was
I had
like,
stolen it.
I think it fell from a plane. But
No, I had
was a
shoved it in
random
my
piece.
Spanx after our 10-year reunion.
It was Amanda's post 10-year high school reunion blitz. You stole like 9 different things.
All unnecessary
including a pipe
items.
for a plumbing project.
A chunk of pipe.
I found it.
You are
You
this
left it-
New Jersey man.
I can use this.
You're like, can you
Perfect.
imagine? Yes.
Perfectly
And then
good
I
pipe.
imagine.
And then I went home to Des Moines, and like 2 fucking weeks later, my mom
did
was
it.
like, I think I figured out where that pipe came from that was on our front step. I was like, what? I forgot. She's like, I think it fell out of a plane. It was like, oh no, that was Amanda.
Oh, that memory's coming back.
It was weeks later. She was like, you
She-
never thought
She
to
just
mention.
been
She's kept
puzzling
it.
over it.
Just looked at it for weeks.
I think I cracked the code.
You didn't.
Your dad says he has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, well, he didn't this time. So that was my fucking favorite thing ever.
Because you could
then-
relate.
Yeah. Another bomb went off in a seat at the Paramount Theater and injured 6 people. And the fed up police commissioner made a statement the next day calling for, quote, the greatest manhunt in the history of the police department. And it had basically become that by that time because they'd been looking for this guy for fucking like 15 years at this point.
So had they actually decided to devote some resources
Yeah.
to it finally?
I mean, I don't think that they were really putting too much thought into
Yeah.
it. I think they were a little busy, but
right.
this now it's like, oh, okay, we've gone too far. They're blowing up kitchen tables in Jersey.
Yeah.
So New Yorkers went completely nuts because now this is just like all over the press, even more than it was before. And 6 people getting hurt at the theater. I mean, it's like,
It's escalating.
it's escalating. So people were just turning people in left and right, like neighbors that they thought were weird, which I feel like is very New York City. Like, I don't know, I don't trust him. Call it in. Call it in. He left his groceries out again on the stoop.
Have you seen how he takes out the bins?
I don't like it. Call it in. He's the mad bomber. So the search
Call it
encompassed
in.
call it in. The search encompassed New York City and Greater New York, as well as surrounding states, but there was no physical description to work with. The dude was a fucking ghost. So they finally called in psychologist James Brussel for help. And this was the first time in the history of the department that a psychologist had been consulted to crack a case. So for that department specifically, obviously not
Right.
like everywhere in
Ever.
1956, 57. So this is from SmithsonianMag.com, quote, Brussel had at first demurred, citing his workload. The New York Department Mental Hygiene, or the New York Department of Mental Hygiene, where he worked, which we don't call it that anymore, but he worked for like a state
What a shame.
mental health
Mental hygiene.
had 120,000 patients, and the caseload grew by 3,000 patients a year. So he's busy. Patient files were stacked high on his desk. In addition, he shouldered a full schedule of lectures and meetings and the demands of private practice. I had real people to deal with, he said, not ghosts. Russell had other reservations. He hesitated to test his theories in such a high-profile case. What if his analysis failed to break the case, or worse, sent the police in the wrong direction? Quote, I don't know what you expect me to do, Russell observed skeptically. If experts haven't cracked this case in more than 10 years of trying, what could I hope to contribute? I don't know, any resources whatsoever.
Well,
You're using experts loosely, but I get what he's saying.
I actually appreciate that he was skeptical of his own abilities, because usually the people that are least able are most confident in themselves and their abilities.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah. In the end, Russell couldn't resist the chance to participate in the biggest manhunt in New York history. So James and I would not be friends. He was a hardcore Freudian and a firm believer in the Oedipus complex. But dude,
sometimes a cigar
is just a cigar, pal.
Subway bread is, of course, bread.
Is, of course, bread when it's not yoga mats. But dude clearly caught on to something. So he combed over every bit of evidence accumulated over the last, at this point, fucking 17 years, focusing primarily on the FP, written letters. He concurred with the assumption that the individual was not born in the U.S. or was at least a first-generation born in the U.S. individual, and believed him to be of Eastern European descent because of his choice of words in his letters and the way that he was writing.
Okay.
The theater seats that bombs were planted in were sliced open aggressively with a knife, which James believed to, quote, spell an Oedipal misalignment.
Oh, like he was trying to penetrate the seat
I don't
with a
like
knife.
that.
I know, which, okay, sometimes
Maybe
a
he
knife
just was nervous and didn't want to be
moving
caught.
quickly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm like, okay.
Not
James,
everything's about dicks.
Yeah.
I know. Like a lot is, but like
A
not
lot
everything.
is, but not everything. Yeah. This felt like a stretch.
Yeah.
He believed the subject, oh my God, no more wine, was likely suffering from paranoia and could be schizophrenic. He also guessed that FP's handwriting, specifically the, quote, sag of his W's mimicking the curve of breasts, meant that the perp was unmarried but lived with female relatives like a mother, aunt, sister. James also stated, quote, when you catch him, and I have no doubt you will, he'll be wearing a double-breasted suit.
Just because of the name double-breasted?
I mean, maybe not the name double-breasted, but maybe like the style of the time, being an Eastern European
Trying to look
person.
official.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there could be a million reasons for that, but it stuck out.
Okay.
So while the capture of FP was definitely pointed in the right direction because of the psychological profile, like that played a huge role, not enough credit goes to Con Ed clerk Alice Kelly. I can't imagine why, speaking of FP.
Yeah. Oh, did they overlook the contributions of Ms.
Of a woman.
Kelly?
Yeah, exactly. She had been working with police, combing over company records, and found one that checked basically every box of the profiled suspect. A disgruntled former employee named George Metesky. After serving in World War I, so military training, check.
Patriotic nonsense.
Yep. Patriotic feelings. He returned home and took a job at Con Edison as a mechanic in Waterbury, Connecticut. So mechanical training, check. He lived with his two unmarried sisters, OMG, check.
Whoa.
In 1931, George was working a shift when a boiler backfire produced a blast of hot gases. This knocked George over and he inhaled hot gas fumes.
Hence
the event-
his G's.
Well, maybe. The
Blast
event left him.
gases.
Oh,
Looks like a fart.
Oh my God.
Did we just
No,
become
but
forensic
maybe.
Oh,
psychologists?
Sure
We
did.
did it. We cracked it.
FP, forensic psychologist.
Well, we'll get to what FP means, but that's not it. But
it's done.
yeah,
I already
great
know.
work.
We did. We did it.
The event left him permanently disabled, but Con Edison only provided him with 26 weeks of sick leave before pulling his job entirely. They just fired him. And then denied him workers' comp for, quote, waiting too long to file as he battled pneumonia and tuberculosis from the blast.
That is very fucked up.
Uh-huh.
That is very, very, very fucked up.
It's not good. He appealed several times until he was rejected, until the last one was rejected in 1936, leaving George penniless with a deep anger toward Con Edison. So disgruntled former employee, check. George was also a first-generation American and the son of Lithuanian immigrants, Eastern European, check.
Check, check.
After 16 years of being terrorized by the mad bomber, police arrived at George Metesky's door and made an arrest. When he was confronted at the home, he was in his pajamas. The cops allowed him to change, and sure enough, he chose a double-breasted suit.
Oh my God.
Isn't that nuts?
Wow. Yeah.
Spot on.
So, like, James, I'm not here for all of your Freudian Oedipal bullshit, but you fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
So George had planted 33 pipe bombs around New York from 1940 to 1957. 22 of those bombs exploded, injuring 15 people. From Wikipedia, quote, they asked him for a handwriting sample and to make a letter G. He made the G, looked up and said, I know why you fellows are here. You think I'm the mad bomber. The detectives asked what FP stood for, and he responded, FP stands for fair play. Which I guess would be like your move,
It
basically.
doesn't
fair play.
even make any fucking sense.
It doesn't really, but
As
this
a
person
sign-off.
is not. I am not well.
I am not well.
He is not well.
super not well. Oh my God.
So he led them to his garage workshop where they found his lathe, which is like a tool used for cutting and sanding metal. Back in the house, they found pipes and connectors suitable for bombs hidden in the pantry, as well as 3 cheap pocket watches, flashlight batteries, brass terminal knobs, and unmatched wool socks of the type used to transport the bombs. So a lot of the crime scenes had fragments of wool where the bombs had gone off, and bombs that were found were usually like taped under the like a phone booth or taped in a locker, wrapped in a wool sock, so that you wouldn't
Like
immediately
Lucy's
know what
old
it was.
camera, digital camera
Exactly.
case.
I immediately thought of that.
Who
when
needs
I
a
was
camera case?
He got an old sock.
Yeah.
George was indicted on 47 charges, including attempted murder, damaging a building by explosion, maliciously endangering life, and violation of New York State's Sullivan Law by carrying concealed weapons. Obviously, transporting the bombs would check that one off. He would undergo a psychiatric evaluation, however, before moving on to sentencing. So he didn't have a jury trial because, like, he admitted to everything once he got caught. There was no need. He was guilty. There was no need to prove him guilty, but they did need to figure out how to sentence him. So he was declared legally insane and unfit to stand trial and transported to Matawan Hospital for the criminally insane. He was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. There, after suffering for years with tuberculosis prior, and like they admitted him into this psychiatric hospital, and they were like, "This guy is not well. Like we don't
He
think
is
he's
not well. He told us.
He
not
told
only
us.
is he psychologically not well, but he was physically not well. I mean, he'd had like walking pneumonia and tuberculosis from this blast,
And
ongoing,
the boogie woogie flu.
and the boogie woogie flu for fucking 16 like years, almost 20 years at this point since that. Well, more than that, since he got that accident
His
in the
gas
30s.
blast.
Yeah, his gas blast had left him literally permanently disabled and with a constant like infection
Wow.
in his chest and lungs. So they didn't think he was going to live like more than maybe 6 months
Yeah.
in this hospital. But he, I guess, getting, I don't know, some kind of consistent medical care helps because he made a full recovery in the hospital. And he was thriving, like doing so much
What a
better.
fucking indictment of our healthcare system.
I know.
Yeah.
Getting
And
committed
also
to a
just,
state
like,
fucking
workers' comp
hospital.
and like union rights for workers and like
he did well.
all
He did
of this
better.
could have been avoided.
He did
Yeah.
better physically and psychologically being admitted to a hospital for the criminally insane in 1957. So, like, yeah, that
Jesus
speaks
Christ.
a lot about healthcare, and yeah, it's not great. So he was transported to a less locked down facility in 1973 because some laws, I guess, changed in New York about how you can't just like lock someone in a hospital for
Forever?
like the criminally insane forever, which is that's a good law. You got to have some sort of contingency for some kind of
If people get better.
right, exactly. Like there needs to be rehabilitation or some kind of treatment with an end date. So he was transferred to a like less locked down facility in 73, and then follow-up assessments deemed him harmless. He was actually released with the caveat that he continue outpatient treatment. He was like medicated for his mental health and schizophrenia. They had fucking actually treated him for like 2 decades of pneumonia and TB. And he was sent home. He went back.
Oh my God.
He went back to his hometown of Waterbury, Connecticut, and he died in 1994 at 90 years old.
Oh my God.
Can you
What a-
imagine if
what
you
a
were like,
fucking
yeah, my
life.
neighbor, I cut his grass. He was the mad bomber.
Yep. Real nice guy, though.
The
Yeah.
Mad Bomber. He
Real
looks
nice
like
guy.
a Mad Bomber.
Yeah, he looks, his photo
photos-
is really funny. It's like iconic, that
Yeah.
photo.
It's
Yeah.
definitely like, here's Johnny.
Yeah.
Ew.
But this is
So-
when he was like really sick.
Yeah, he was not well.
I am not well.
Did his sisters have any clue?
As far as I know, they had no idea. I mean, they're both working. I think that this family home, people were in and out of the house and they're fucking working their
Yeah.
asses off. And they're like, I don't fucking know what he's doing. Whatever. He's not well.
Right.
But I don't think they thought he was the mad bomber. I mean, even just looking at him, like, I know I say this all the time. Fucking every black and white photo of like a jovial man in glasses. I'm like, he could be my
Looks
dad.
like my dad. You do say
But
that
this
a lot.
guy looks so much like actually looks like my dad with
He
hair.
really
Like,
actually
it's
looks
kind
like
of,
your dad.
A little
it's kind of
bit.
nuts.
Your dad had
Yeah.
a much more cue ball shaped head.
I was
His
gonna-
head was perfectly round.
This,
True.
yeah,
This guy
this
has
man
pretty
has
round.
jowls.
In the
pretty round.
one where he's like apprehended in the double-breasted suit and he's
Yeah.
smiling and surrounded by cops, that looks a lot like my dad.
That's the one I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I
The
side
jail
with
photo,
Mike
not so
Jacobson.
Not so much.
Not
I
so
want to
much.
go back to this letter that you uploaded with
Mhm.
the G's and whatever. And towards the bottom, he
Mhm.
does give hints about his parentage.
Mm,
He says,
mhm,
the nearest to my being Teutonic,
mhm.
which doesn't that mean German?
I think so.
Is that my father boarded a liner in Hamburg for passage to this country about 65 years ago.
Yeah, so
Dot,
this
dot, dot.
particular letter, I think, was later in his like reign of terror
Mhm.
when the press was like, "We think we're looking for
This
so
type.
and so."
And he's
So they
like,
prob-
haha, you got something
exactly.
wrong.
So he's definitely like taunting them a little bit, and he liked the attention. Like he's definitely reading the articles in the press,
Right.
but he's not well.
He's not
He's
well.
not
But he
well.
died quite well and lived
Till
90 beautiful years. God bless
Beautiful
him.
years. I don't know about
90
that.
beautiful
but-
years.
Let's slow your roll. He lived 90 years. Some not so beautiful.
I'd give him about 35
90
beautiful years.
fighting TB in a state prison for the criminally insane.
30% of which were beautiful.
Injuring people's butts.
He thrived. Never
Well-
killed a damn one of them.
He was not well.
All right?
It's not well.
Didn't
Well,
kill a one.
I'm not well.
Anyway,
I love the all caps. I am not well.
I am not well.
Definitely.
New merch. For sure.
Merch.
New
Oh,
merch.
no.
I am not well.
I want I am not well shot glass set. I am not well. Draft it up, Corey. Anyway, that's my case. I just thought that case was so wild and was like such a sensation. I had I'd heard of the Mad Bomber, but I was like, I have no idea what this is about.
Yeah.
But it was
well
so
done.
fun.
Well done.
Nice job.
Thanks,
And-
y'all.
Special thanks to our fan picker, Katie M.
Oh,
Thanks, Katie.
I hope you're well.
I am not well.
I'm not.
All right, we'll talk to you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.